Good morning and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and Calvin Butenoff coming to you live from our studio in sunny downtown Waukesha. You can always join the conversation. You can call, you can text. Same number, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Very busy show coming up today, as we do every Tuesday at 10:33. We have a colleague from Civic Media join us. Very excited to have Dominic Salvia is here. Live in studio. Dom, who debuted his show yesterday from 4 to 6 p.m.
What's it called, Jane?
It is called, aptly, The Dom Salvia Show.
It just rolls off your tongue.
Isn't it? It's so clever. Great show. I highly encourage you to check it out. 4 to 6 p.m. on all the news talk stations across the Civic Media Radio Network. Dominic Salvia joining us at 10:33 after the 11 o'clock news. 11:06. Kristen Alfheim will join us. She is the candidate for Wisconsin State Senate District 18.
Yes.
This is a newly redrawn area.
Yes.
And so she's got a shot.
I got to say, Jane, the excitement that's coming out of the candidates who are running in these districts with the new maps is something, we haven't seen
in decades.
Over a decade now.
Yep.
Scott Walker came in and did his work, and now we're doing the good work to undo that stuff. And I just love listening to the candidates talk about how getting on the doors, talking to people, really feeling that excitement, that groundswell.
Yeah. And I'm looking forward to talking to Kristen, find out what she's hearing from folks when they're knocking on doors.
Yeah.
Because again, I think there are a lot more things that unite us than divide us.
Absolutely.
Concern about childcare, concern about healthcare, concern about clean water. I know these wacky, far out things, Greg.
Jane, did you say childcare?
I did say childcare because I do think that this is a critical issue. By the way, just a reminder, there is debate tonight. Yes. Vice President Kamala Harris, former President Trump, debating tonight. The debate coverage, our debate coverage, starts tonight, 7:30 across the Civic Media Radio Network, also on the Civic Media app. Our news director, Terry Bell, and Todd Alba will be hosting the coverage, so I encourage you to join us coming up tonight at 7:30. Debate itself starts at 8 p.m. I'm assuming it's going to go for 2 hours.
The whole thing, I imagine from start to finish, everything will about 2.5, 3 hours for coverage and all the stuff.
Yeah, but if you aren't able to stay awake for the entire thing, I feel you. We will recap it tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
We will have all the highlights, lowlights, whatever lights. We'll have all the lights.
Perms, trims.
Yep, all those things.
Bobs.
Yes, we'll do it all tomorrow morning here on Matenaer On Air. So coming up right now, let's talk about childcare, shall we?
I think we should, as two childless cat ladies.
Yes, childless, catless people.
Yes.
But I still think I have friends who have children. I have friends who have grandchildren.
Yeah.
This is something we've talked about for months.
Yeah.
This is something that our Republican-controlled legislature, as they continue sitting on a big pile of money.
Yep.
Refusing to dole it out to people in the state. I don't know who could actually use it. Like for clean water and cleaning up PFAS. And so you wouldn't have to drink for bottled water for another decade. But oh, heck. It's the popcorn king's money, and he knows best what to do with it. But yes, we're going to talk about childcare, dueling childcare plans, as it were. Vice President for the Republican side, J.D. Vance, very popular young man.
This man just keeps on speaking words and saying things into microphones, and with nothing but 100% success rate every time.
Oh, yes, and accuracy.
Oh, accuracy for days.
So much accuracy. Calvin.
Expert on women, too.
That, too. Calvin, let's play that clip from J.D. Vance talking about the childcare issue in America.
Rising costs on everything. Daycare is very expensive. Yep. We pay $725 a month for it, and that's the lowest we found in this area. What can we do about lowering the cost of daycare? Hayden, obviously a working family, and it's very hard for working families to get by. How will we lower the cost of daycare?
It's such an important question, Charlie. And I think one of the things that we can do is make it easier for family models to choose, or for families to choose whatever model they want, right?
Yes.
So one of the ways that you might be able to relieve a little bit of pressure on people who are paying so much for daycare is make it so that maybe like grandma or grandpa wants to help out a little bit
Yes.
more. Or maybe there's an aunt or uncle that wants to help out a little bit more. If that happens, you relieve some of the pressure on all the resources that we're spending in daycare. Now, you talk about just daycare. Let's say you don't have somebody who can provide that extra set of hands.
Lots of folks.
What we've got to do is actually empower people to get trained in the skills that they need for the 21st century. We've got a lot of people who love kids, who would love to take care of kids, but they can't, either because they don't have access to the education that they need,
True.
or maybe more importantly, because the state government says you're not allowed to take care of children unless you have some ridiculous certification that has nothing to do with taking care of kids. So empower people to get the skills they need. Don't force every early child care specialist to go and get a 6-year college degree where they've got a whole lot of debt and Americans are much poorer because they're paying out the wazoo for daycare. Empower working families, empower people who want to do these things for a living, and that's what we got to do.
Okay, a couple things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So grandma and grandpa, obviously you guys are way falling down on the job, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you're retired, you're 80, you're not done.
Yeah. Let's hope
You're not done.
let's hope grandma and grandpa are in their 40s or 50s. Because my mom is 79.
Well,
If you had a
she
kid
needs
now,
to step. She needs
you're
to
right.
step it up.
You're right.
Come on, Greg.
Sorry.
You're gonna have to talk to mom after the show today and say, Mom, you're not doing your part. There must be someone in your neighborhood who could use your services as a daycare provider.
Absolutely. I mean,
Right?
this is small business is the backbone of America, Jane. You're right. And she needs to start an in condo
daycare.
in condo daycare.
I'm sure that'll go over great.
I'm sure the HOA, the condo association, will love that.
No problem.
Yeah.
No problem whatsoever. Aunts and uncles. Well, did he even say uncles or was it just aunts?
He may have said uncles. Who knows? He doesn't really. I mean, men, it's not our problem.
Well, no, it's really not.
It's not really our problem.
It's the childless, catless, postmenopausal women who
Yeah.
have no stake in America, nothing else to do. We're not doing our part.
Yeah.
We're
Well,
not.
you're also very angry because you can't have kids. So.
Well, and without any satisfaction in my life.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm the perfect angry person
Mhm.
who is not satisfied to watch your small children. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. And also, is there, I mean, this can be negotiated between families when you say to them, hey, you're an aunt or uncle or a grandpa or grandma, you take care of my kids. And is it free? Are you negotiating a price? I don't know. I mean, like,
I think it needs to be free.
Oh, yes. that helps relieve some of the pressure. It's a pressure valve.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you people who know people who have children, you're falling down on your responsibilities
Yeah.
to help ease the financial burden. So you just need to volunteer yourself to watch other people's kids and do it for nothing because you're a good American.
But then JD Vance almost gets there. He almost gets there. He starts getting on he gets on the roller coaster, starts going up. We're like, oh, we're going to get the access to training. Maybe people want to be trained to do this. Access is something that everyone talks about all the time. Access to services, education,
Yes.
scholarship,
Yes.
whether it's loan or grants. Someone wants to get in the childcare world and they have to get certification. All right, let's ease that certification
Yes.
or make it easier to access it. Cool. And then what does he say? It's either people who don't have access to it, what are we going to do about it? Or states who have ridiculous standards for watching children. What does that even mean?
Well, let's just not have any licensing, Greg.
No, licensure is one of the most hindering points of any sort of expertise. I come from the barbering world, Jane, and this state right here, no lie, tried to get rid of sanitation and safety licenses here. They tried to ease those standards to make it easier for, wait for it, a big millionaire Wisconsin corporation to hire barbers and stylists and pay them less. Oops, sorry, I said too much. My point is, when we ease the standards, we get substandard care or services. And this whole thing of ridiculous standards that he's talking about, what do you mean by that have nothing to do with children? Are people taking math courses? What say more, JD?
Yeah, go into a little more detail. That would be helpful.
Yeah.
And you're right. He was so close to
He was so
He
close.
was so close to actually getting the points. And I do not know enough about this to speak with a lot of authority about the number of regulations and things you have to go through and hoops you have to jump through.
Mm-hmm.
But I would think that most of us can agree that there needs to be some kind of vetting
Yes.
or licensing, especially for people who are watching children.
Yes. Yes. Your
Not
basic.
everyone can just walk up and say, I'm open Frank's daycare center. Bring your kids over. It'll be fine.
Frank's Bar and Grill and Babysitting Hut. There we go.
We'll have them in the back.
Yeah.
Where the card games happen.
When they hit 4, they get to cook the meals.
We
put them to work.
We'll put them on the grill.
I mean, are we gonna like get rid of the standards for 12-year-olds to get their babysitting license? It's fine. You just
She know you well, especially girls. You just know this instinctively.
Yeah. Well, boys,
So you shouldn't have to have any kind of Red Cross training or any stuff like. I had a babysitting class.
Boys, if you're babysitting, just call a girl if something goes wrong.
That's what they're
call
for.
your mom, your grandma, your aunt, somebody,
some female, whatever. They can do it.
Just yell out the window. Find a stranger. Yeah, it's really on brand for JD Vance. And here's the thing too. I want to just say really quick: the sheer level of confidence the man has as he's saying all of this. Like, of course.
Well, naturally,
we want to do all these things. Naturally, grandparents will want to chip in. Yeah, grandparents want to chip in here and there, maybe an overnight or once or twice a month if you talk to them and they're down for it. But you can't just be like, well, there you go. I'm going to go to work now. Good luck.
Well, and I have to say, God bless my mother. I love my mother. I miss my mother.
Yeah.
She was not a small child fan, especially as she got older. So I kind of got my child rearing ideas from her, along with duct tape on a wall. That way you'd know where they are all the time and you never have to go looking for them. They're right there.
Kids choose through that
Not
stuff.
everyone is built
exactly.
for that.
Exactly. And some people are lucky to have their parents or they're lucky to have that
support
daycare option that might be even free or whatever. But that's not everybody, and it shouldn't be expected.
No, it would be nice, but it's not true. Donald Trump also had some words about childcare. We will kick that around when we come back. Stay close. You are listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Good morning. Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Dr. Slide on the board, coming to you from our studio in downtown Waukesha. You can always join us. Call, text, same number, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform that Leon continues to actively ruin. He actually announced this morning that as of December, they're taking away the block and the mute buttons in the interest of free speech.
You mean, is this the same guy who suspended the accounts of reporters who said things he didn't like?
Yes. That would be the same complete absolutist free speech guy.
Absolute free speech.
That
Good,
guy.
Good to know.
Good to
Noted.
know. So anyway, that's coming in December. I just saw this morning.
We're all going to Threads, people. Threads.
Talking about childcare, JD Vance had thoughts about childcare. Donald Trump also recently was asked about his childcare plan. At this was a pretty serious group in New York, economists.
Yeah, it was the New York Economists Club, I believe.
Donald Trump was asked how he would address childcare and the cost of childcare. Calvin, let's play that clip from Donald Trump.
President Trump, you talked about how the increase in the price of food, gas, and rent is hurting families. But the real cost that's breaking families' backs and preventing women from participating in the workforce is childcare. Childcare is now more expensive than rent for working families and is costing the economy more than $122 billion a year, making it one of the most urgent economic issues that is facing our country. In fact, the cost of childcare is outpacing the cost of inflation, with the majority of American families of young children spending more than 20% of their income on childcare. One thing that Democrats and Republicans have in common is that both parties talk a lot about what they're going to do to address the childcare crisis, but neither party has delivered meaningful change. If you win in November, can you commit to prioritizing legislation to make childcare affordable? And if what specific piece of legislation will you advance?
Well, I would do that, and we're sitting down. You know, I was somebody, we had Senator Marco Rubio, and my daughter Ivanka was so impactful on that issue. It's a very important issue, but I think when you talk about the kind of numbers that I'm talking about, that because look, childcare is childcare.
Childcare is childcare.
Write that down.
You have to have it in this country. You have to have it. But when you talk about those numbers compared to the kind of numbers that I'm talking about by taxing foreign nations at levels that they're not used to, but they'll get used to it very quickly. And it's not going to stop them from doing business with us, but they'll have a very substantial tax when they send product into our country. Those numbers are so much bigger than any numbers that we're talking about, including childcare, that it's going to take care. We're going to have, I look forward to having no deficits within a fairly short period of time.
What?
Did I miss something in the question?
The reductions that
We're talking about childcare still.
Waste and fraud and all of the other things that are going on.
Okay, Calvin, that's more than enough.
That hurt.
You can find a transcript of that, by the way. We'll put a transcript in the show notes.
Can we?
Yes.
All right.
Because I think it's important, and I've said this many times before, it's important that people read his words. Because sometimes I think as you're listening, if you're like me, you're just kind of going. So I think it's important that you see the transcript. He does not follow any logic.
No.
There is no logic to his words.
And her question was so nuanced and so well asked.
It was pretty specific.
It was very specific on one thing, the affordability of childcare in America.
And what is your policy on that? And so ultimately, I'm assuming he's going to put all these tariffs on goods coming into this country, and we're going to be raking in so much money from tariffs that childcare is going to be free.
Well, I also thought of it like, okay, are you going to take all of this squillions upon squillions of tariff dollars and then set up some sort of subsidy for Americans? Like maybe give a $10,000 childcare tax credit every year? But you know it will never happen? That.
Right.
Because a GOP-controlled Congress will never allow that to leave committee, let alone vote on it. So I do not understand for a moment where he is going on this clown car of word soup.
Well, and Lawrence O'Donnell from MSNBC blasted the New York Times pretty handily for, and we're going to adopt this. This is a term now from Aaron Rupar, who I follow on what used to be Twitter, sane washing.
Yep.
It is the press and the media pretending like this is normal and this is how normal people talk and this is how normal people reason.
Yeah.
Let's play that clip from Lawrence O'Donnell, Calvin, please.
I understand the New York Times campaign reporters are too busy to be watching this program. I don't expect them to learn any of this from me. I expected them to learn this by the end of the first year of high school.
Yeah.
A tariff is imposed by the United States of America and paid for by the people of the United States of America and no one else ever. The entire point of a tariff is to raise the price of the foreign product to the American consumer so that the American consumer does not want to buy it anymore because it's too expensive.
Bingo.
All economists understand that American tariffs function as sales taxes paid by American consumers. Economists consider tariffs sales taxes. Yes, tariffs raise money. Yes, tariffs were the only way the federal government raised money before the imposition of income taxes. And the only way the American government can raise money is from the American people. The American government cannot tax anyone other than the American people.
Lawrence O'Donnell last night on MSNBC blasting the New York Times, and I think this is applicable to all of what used to be the papers of record, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN.
CNN, yeah.
It's all the same. It's this sane washing, taking Donald Trump's word salads and pretending this makes sense.
Well, and the funny comparison too is that those comments came out a couple of days within each other between JD Vance and Donald Trump, and people just hammered JD Vance for his answer, hammered him over and over and over again, and just called it like what is basically what we were talking about earlier. But when Donald Trump did it, it was gave answers at the New York Economic Club about childcare.
They applauded him.
And the question I have is it like these are staff writers on the campaign? These aren't like high priority profile New York Times writer. I'm not defending them. I'm just asking the question is, if they turn in a story which has a definition of tariffs, do their editors say, we don't want that in there? Just report the story, move on. I want to know the process, basically. Was there some sort of explanation on, hey, this is a tariff, or this is why this might not, you know what I mean?
No. They're saying, yes, this is his plan to increase tariffs without pointing out that the American people are the ones who pay for tariffs. That's how it works. News is coming up next. When we return, Dom Salvia from the aptly named Dom Salvia Show joining us from 10:30 to 11:30. JD Vance, we're not done with him quite yet. A segment called This Should Not Be a Thing. That's all on the way. Stay close. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Good morning and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, the Calvinator on the board, coming to you from our studio in downtown Waukesha. You can always join us. You can call, you can text 855-752-4842. If you're watching on the live stream, leave a comment on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Very excited to have him here, the host of the new Salvia program, 4 to 6 p.m. on the news talk stations of Civic Media Radio Network. Dominic Salvia, how are you?
I'm great, Jane. Great to be back with you. Thank you for inviting me. Greg, good to see you. Calvin, working hard on the board. Thank you, folks. It's been a long time.
It has been a really long time.
Nearly a year.
I was just in my head during the commercial. I'm like, oh, how long has it been since? I think it was since like Kristen went on maternity leave.
Yeah.
We were, palling around here a little bit, filling in. Yeah.
You were one of the nice ones who held my hand when I was taking over.
You're holding my hand, Jane.
Got me into the swing of things.
Yeah.
And now you have your own show.
Yeah.
And I listened yesterday. It was great.
Thank you.
Earl Ingram spent the first 2 hours with you. And it was really great to hear you guys kick things around. It was really, really good.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Civic has promised lots of access to guests and hosts. And, I love to do that. I'm not a big ranter, just yelling at the mic kind of guy. I like to banter back and forth with people and have conversations and have a good time. It's I was when Crude and I were doing the show back in the day with iHeart. Sometimes I'd work out of their station here, and Belling would just be in the studio all by himself, just
ranting,
ranting. And he'd come out, be in the coffee room and stand right next to me getting coffee, wouldn't say a word
because he's used all his words,
all of them. So it's great to be back. Thank you.
Well, and I think one of the things I think that I took away the first time that I met you, one of the first couple times that I met you, you genuinely like people. You really do. I mean, because I've seen you interact with people when we were out at the holiday party, and you just are really interested in folks, folks.
Yes. I mean, that's the tapestry of life, isn't it? I mean, what do we hear if not to get exposure to new people and ideas and thoughts and try to have a good time?
No, but it's great. And that's why I think people love talking to you, because you feel like you're the center of the world when Dominic's talking to you. God, you actually care what I say. That's
it brings
so nice.
a good energy.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. All right, we are going to talk about voting. This is in Wisconsin Public Radio. Dodge County clerks backtrack on using drop boxes after concerns from Republican sheriff. Email from the Dodge County sheriff cited concerns and strongly encouraged the clerks not to use drop boxes, which, by the way, are legal again in Wisconsin.
Concerns, huh?
Concerns.
Very concerned.
Yes.
The clerks in Dodge County were considering using the absentee ballot drop boxes in the November election, but changed course when the Republican sheriff urged them not to, and this is the reason why. In order to prevent the perception of voter fraud. The perception.
The thing that doesn't exist.
Yeah, the thing that doesn't exist. We need to encourage more people's belief in the thing that does not exist by doing this and not using drop boxes.
Somewhat of a quandary, isn't it? And I would imagine, although I don't know offhand, there's probably more Republican voters in that area than Democratic voters. So if there's going to be any sort of suppression or people not getting their ballots out, that kind of thing, it probably impact Republicans more. But it's not a Republican or Democratic thing, right? It's about voting.
It's about access.
Access to voting and at these perceptions. What is the sheriff, what is he citing as any sort of proof of concern about this?
Gut feeling.
Oh, it's
a gut feeling. Yeah, inherently.
Feel it in your bones.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Calvin, I believe we have a clip from Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, talking about the hundreds and thousands of people voting illegally. Calvin, let's play that clip.
We all know intuitively that a lot of illegals are voting in federal elections, but it's not been something that is easily provable. We don't have that number.
So we don't have any proof. We can't prove it, but we just know. I just know it.
Feel it in my bones.
Your Honor, I know Jane murdered that person. I feel it in my bones. I have no proof. That's all.
Arrest her.
I rest my case. Good day.
It's this humoring of these people that has brought us, we are living in a washing machine cycle now.
Well, and what is it about? Okay, the drop boxes. These things are locked, right? I mean,
they're bolted to the ground. They're locked up when not in use. They're covered when they're not in use.
And they do, at least in one of these instances, there's a camera on it.
Right.
There's a camera on it.
I mean, it's anything that makes it easier for folks. The Republicans are automatically against for some reason. I don't know why. I really seriously don't know why not embrace and make it easy for everyone. Is most people, we want engagement, do we not? I mean, if we don't have engagement from the population, you end up with a government that isn't necessarily representative of the wants of the citizens. And certainly it's our fault if we don't get up and go do that, right? But it's also the leadership's fault. If you're talking about a sheriff, right, this is an elected position, presumably a constitutional sheriff, I would imagine. I don't know if he's like the Racine guy who's part of the Constitution sheriff thing. But you're in a position of power, and you're going to tell the people that you're concerned about drop boxes because
perception.
Mm-hmm.
There's the perception that this encourages voter fraud. There is no proof.
Yeah.
There has never been any proof that they were stuffed full of illegal ballots. And we have talked many, many times about the process of voting. It's not like you can just print something off on your printer and write number 12 in the corner.
Yeah.
There are tracking methods for these ballots. They print out these ballots that have numbers on them that correspond to another number that keeps track of these ballots. So it's not a thing.
But unfortunately, all of that information from printing the ballot to voting on the ballot, to submitting the ballot, to counting the ballot, and then storing it, whatever you do with it afterwards, all of that is something that those individuals don't like to worry themselves with, and that is called nuance and detail. They just want to hear voter fraud, bad. That's it. That is the tasty piece of candy. Voter fraud. I don't like voter fraud. You don't like voter fraud. We shouldn't have voter fraud. The sheriff said there's voter fraud, so that we got to lock that box up. No, we don't want to. I don't want to hear about the details
and how
voter fraud bad.
How it actually
works. There is if you Google Brennan Center of Justice,
yes,
and hit voter fraud, the top hit's going to be something called The Myth of Voter Fraud, and that is an exhaustive report that I think they don't update, came out years ago, about 10, 12 years ago, talking about voter intimidation, voter suppression, which both of these things are. These are cases, but also how voting fraud is something that is so minutely in the world that all these laws, whether you want to talk about locking up drop boxes, voter ID, and now trying to put something on the Constitution of Wisconsin saying you have to be a U.S. citizen to vote. Well, thank God for us. If we hadn't said that, no one would know that.
It's already illegal. We're going to make it really, really illegal.
It's like a double, triple.
That's right.
Threat.
Yeah.
Right. Or a suspension. What was the Animal House? What am I thinking?
Double secret probation.
Thank you. Yes.
But it covers all of this, and it just goes back to the fact that there's so much information out there. It's like climate change or anything else. There's so much information, and so many experts have come together and said, yeah, this is not something we need to worry about. But yet there's a guy with a badge who America's, and he's Americaing all over the place saying voter fraud, and people are like, well, he knows him.
Yeah, he's a cop.
I mean,
he's a man of authority. He knows.
Yep.
And let's ask a question. What do the people of that county think? Because Brookfield voted, their common council voted to not use the drop boxes. That was unpopular because the people in Brookfield want that drop box because it's a level of convenience for them. This is intimidation and suppression at its highest level, and it's anti-American in my opinion.
Well, and I think to Dom's point, and I think you make a really good point, Dominic, why wouldn't you want every eligible American to vote? Because when turnout is big, Republicans lose.
Right.
Yep.
That's why, in a nutshell.
And Democrats are better at ginning up the excitement for voting. When they get behind it, they're better at it. They're just better at. Republicans aren't. Republicans are going back and forth with this. Vote early, bank your vote, and voting early is theft. They cannot get their message together, and that harms their people. It just does. They trip over them. They've never invested in ground games. They've never invested in grassroots organization. They've never really worked on knocking on doors. That doesn't mean that all Republicans don't. I'm saying the industry of Republican politics doesn't care about knocking on the doors and talking to people. That's why you saw so many Republicans dropping out when the new maps came, because they're like, I have to work for this seat now?
I have to tell people who I am and what I stand for. Oh my God, I don't want to do that.
And why you should vote for me. But it's not just the Dropbox. It's just, this is a continuation of the story of suppression and so forth. When we had the Stop the Steal folks, and we had here in the state of Wisconsin, Congressman, Tom Tiffany and Fitzgerald, I think their first acts were to, deny, we have to do something about this because this is fraud. And Trump said it's fraud. But they were fine with their victories.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? On the very same ballot.
Absolutely.
Well, explain to me that if you're going to tell us that this is fraud and this is a terrible thing, how does that exactly work? How is your ballot in your area, the one that you won on, how is that one fine? How's it been since the midterms and the elections we've had since? That apparently all those are fine, but now it's already prepped. Well, this is going to be massive fraud on a massive scale. According to Trump, is going to threaten the donors and the journalists and anyone involved and the lawyers. It's going to get bloody. I mean, this is it's asinine. It's scary language.
Yes, it is.
Because I always wonder, people. Why does civility matter so much? Because that stuff's contagious and people pick up on it.
And words matter.
Yeah.
Words are important. The pen is mightier than the sword. That's a thing for a reason. Because it inspires people for both good and evil. Cindy from Appleton is on the line. Good morning, Cindy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. Why don't they have to have some kind of absolute proof that this is happening before they can start making these kind of legislative things for ballots? I just don't understand this. There's just no proof. There's no evidence, but yet they can put these constitutional amendments on the ballot. I don't get that.
It's because they just know inherently, Cindy. Mike Johnson knows inherently. Ron Johnson feels it in his bones. Maybe it's a Johnson thing.
Well, and the constitutionality portion of it, it's a process. You get it through whatever the language is, whatever the message, whatever they're trying to do. If you get it through the legislature and two subsequent I mean, they pass the muster. They can throw it on there, and it's up to the voters to decide. Fortunately, but why would we have to be presented with these? And the wording of them are always so very confusing.
Oh, intentionally so.
Intentionally. And I think in some regards, in this most recent one, it didn't bode well for the Republicans.
Right.
I think some of them were confused.
Well, and I think once people understood what those measures were going to do, it was like, no, I don't want that so much.
No, thank you.
Seems like a bad idea. Andrew from Maine on the live stream asked the sheriff how many cases of voter fraud did his department investigate in the last 10 years.
Right.
Make him give a specific number that can be printed. How many resulted in charges? If I remember correctly, going back to 2020, the most cases of voter fraud happened at the Villages in Florida.
The Villages.
The Villages in Florida.
That's right.
Highly Republican, by the way. Highly Republican area.
I don't think I ever told anybody on this station I've been investigated for voter fraud.
You did? Wow. What'd you do?
I voted legally, and someone counted my vote or looked at my vote and said, he doesn't live at this place. I just moved while I was working on an election. Got a knock on a door from a U.S. Marshal. They came up to my apartment. They talked to me, and I said, yeah, I just, the X, Y, and Z. There was no fraud. There was no, hippity dippity. It was just, they didn't know where I lived. And so I told them, and they said, "Oh, okay." And I'll never forget this. As he's walking out, I said, "Thank you for coming by. I appreciate you, what you're doing." And he goes, "Yeah, these never go anywhere. We investigate these all the time. They never go anywhere. They're never it's never a crime, really. It's just
that's because Michael Gableman hasn't investigated you yet, buddy.
That's right.
Bring it, Gables.
Dom Salvia is here for one more segment, and we're going to do a round of This Should Not Be a Thing. Stay close. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network. Good morning. Welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Dr. Slide on the board, coming to you from our studio in downtown Waukesha. You can always join us. Call, text 855-752-4842. Leave a comment on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform that Leon continues to actively ruin on a daily basis. Join
Leon.
Well, Trump called him Leon over the weekend, so
it fits.
It does.
It is
Leon Musk.
I dubbed the Leon.
Leon's going to be in my cabinet. It'll be the best cabinet. I have Leon,
And
Bob Jr. I'll have all of them.
He is talking about giving Leon a job in his administration.
They talked about that on their little talk on X when they were talking together.
Like the Department of Efficiency or something?
Oh, God.
The guy whose rocket exploded and he called it an unscheduled disassembly. Yes, let's put him in the Trump administration.
Yeah, really, if any administration, it's perfect.
I mean, just more oligarchs is really what we need. I mean, yes. I mean, they're rich, so they know everything and have all the best ideas.
I was driving home yesterday. I saw 3 electronic Trump billboards, and all of them would now say, endorsed by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I'm like, that's not the flex you think it is, buddy.
No, right. The guy took a chainsaw to a whale's carcass on the beach
and tied it to the roof of his car.
Yeah.
If that's not enough to make you go,
I mean, obviously, it should be on the hood.
With the tongue hanging.
Or in the front, you know,
right.
like hog style.
That's the definition of generational wealth crazy.
Okay. This should not be a thing. I'm just going to say it. This should not be a thing. Politicians should not be able to claim something is true when it comes from a random person in a local Facebook post. A random person in a Facebook group from Ohio posted that their neighbor's daughter's friend had lost her cat, and J.D. Vance yesterday posited that the lost cat was taken by Haitians who are eating people's pets, along with ducks in parks. You don't get to take information from your neighbor's daughter's friend who said she lost her cat and then come out and say that was Haitians.
That's a very specific group of people, by the way, to accuse. Like, you could just be like, just go with the standard, like, you know,
the
immigrants.
The immigrants, right. It was the immigrants. But yeah, specifically Haitians. It was the Haitians.
Well, and I've seen some not very savory speculation about that.
Of course.
Because Haiti does have, there are different traditions. I believe there is voodoo possibly in some Haitian traditions. I'm speaking
like different cultures,
different things. And there has been a number of immigrants of Haitian descent who have moved to this area in Ohio. They're here under humanitarian. They didn't sneak in, people. Everybody knows they're here.
Yeah, they did it legally.
Yeah, they have reasons.
They have different religious and or spiritual practices and teachings.
But I don't.
Possibly. Who knows? There could be.
But this
Exactly.
does not mean this does not mean
No.
that every lost pet in this Ohio neighborhood is being abducted by Haitians so they can have a snack.
I was not saying because they do X leads to Z. I'm saying that what you don't understand doesn't mean all of a sudden, oh well, this Haitians must be eating ducks and pets. That's
snatching them right out of the park and just going to town right then and there, right?
Yeah. The Springfield Police Department issued a statement saying, quote, there are no credible reports of Haitian immigrants harming pets. The city also posted a statement saying the Haitians are in the U.S. legally under a humanitarian program.
That's Antifa wrote that press release.
What it was?
The crooked FBI and Black Lives Matter, all of them wrote that press release.
DOJ, the crooked DOJ, and don't forget the crooked media.
Yep.
Reverend Al Sharpton pointing out Haitian immigrants. He said, don't miss the racial angle here. Haitian immigrants, J.D. Vance particularly zeroing in on the Haitian immigrants. This goes to the myth that blacks are cannibals and eat each other. It plays into the history of racism, part of what Trump has appealed to since Charlottesville, since birtherism. It's not just immigrants, but Haitians eating your pets, eating your animals because you know they're cannibals. Don't miss that. That's Reverend Alf Sharpton.
Yeah, very, very good point.
And what did J.D. Vance do this morning? He doubled down.
Oh, no, he didn't.
Doubled down on it because I've been seeing these memes of Trump with ducks and cats. He's the savior now of ducks and cats.
Okay.
And JD's like, keep those cat memes coming. They're gold.
Because that is the basic premise of that group of individuals now. It's there is no wrong, there is no apology, there's not even walking back anymore.
No, ever. Double down.
It's double down. And if you don't like it, you can't take a joke.
Right.
That's on you.
Oh, it's a joke now. But see how it always morphs, though.
Exactly.
There's no pigeonholing people into a positions. If you get called on it, oh well, maybe he was just kidding. Oh, okay, now I'm good. Or he was being sarcastic. Now I'm not the interpreter of the guy who says he wants to be a dictator for a day. Sorry. When he invited people to DC, he said it will be wild. He was right. It was.
Yeah, this just plays into what they do now, and I'm not surprised because when the whole childless cat lady thing came out, he wouldn't shut up about it.
Well, he apologized to cats.
Yeah.
He apologized to cats.
He's also just not funny either. Like, I'm not even talking about like you're I'm offended. I'm like, you're just not funny, bro.
Brendan is on the line real quickly. Brendan, we're just about up against the clock. What did you want to say?
I only wanted to say that I just can't wait to get to my supermarket and find my fluffy deviled cracker spread, because I told you they were out of red meat. So now we're making deviled cracker spread out of cats and ducks. Have a great day.
You too, Brendan. Thanks for that visual, I think.
Yeah.
Dominic Salvia, it has been so much fun. I hope
you.
we're able to have you back. Catch the Dom Salvia Show across the Civic Media Radio Network on our news talk stations today and every weekday from 4 to 6 p.m. Thank you so much, Tom.
Thanks, guys.
News coming up when we return. Kristen Alfheim will join us to talk about life on the campaign trail. Stay close. You're listening to Matenaer On Air. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.
Hi, Kristen. Can you hear me all right?
I can.
All right. Sounds good. We come back from break in about 3 minutes.
Sounds great.
Good morning and welcome to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and Calvin Butenhoff coming to you from our studio in beautiful downtown Waukesha. You can always join us. You can call, you can text. It's the same number, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. Just a reminder, the debate is tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump will be stepping onto the debate stage starting at 8 o'clock. Our coverage here on Civic Media begins at 7:30, hosted by our news director, Terry Bell, and our colleague and friend, Todd Alba. You can catch it all across the Civic Media Radio Network and on the Civic Media app that starts tonight at 7:30 p.m. Should be an interesting evening. We will certainly recap it for you tomorrow. Excited to have our next guest join us. I'm fairly certain that when she is out on the campaign trail, she is not referring to something she saw in a Facebook post that was posted by her neighbor's friend's daughter's cousin. I think she relies more on factual information. Kristen Alfheim is here. Good morning, Kristen. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, Civic Media family. How are you?
We are
Doing
great.
right.
Very excited to have you with us. Kristen Alfheim is running in Senate District 18. It includes the bulk of Appleton, Menasha, Neenah, and Oshkosh. It did change quite a bit after the redistricting. So, Kristen, how are you feeling when you're out on the campaign trail and knocking on doors? What are you hearing from folks?
Listen, there's definitely a positive air out there on the streets of the Fox Valley. No question the top of the ticket change has made an impressive change. I'm still working in what they call the persuasion universe. So I'm not talking to strong Dems. We're talking to infrequent voters and moderates. And I will absolutely tell you that there is about a 3-to-1 blue advantage in that range right now. without question. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of people that are just fed up with the entire negativity and the air of the nastiness that has gone on for how many years, and they just want to move forward again.
It's the incivility. It's the nasty rhetoric. It's the insults. It's the punching down that I think a vast majority of people are like, it doesn't have to be this way. Why are we this way?
Right. And I try real hard, and I'll walk up to a door even if I see that there's a Trump sign. Not all of them. Some of them are so bold, you just know it's not a great choice. But if I walk up to a door and there's a single sign there, I'll still walk up and I'll have a conversation. And I think what people are appreciative of, again, this is the rational individual, the idea of someone who may be on the other side just saying, tell me how you feel. I'm going to listen no matter what, because how you feel is valid. And I think that's what I want to really get across in this election. We must start speaking again, because our emotions, how we're feeling is real. We can't just blow everything off, and we have to get back to having these conversations as civil adults. Then we can start to move forward in terms of who is actually trying to make it better for you. What could we do that would make it feel better? We have to start listening to one another before we can start actually talking about who's truly interested in moving it forward and making it better for you at your kitchen table. And there's a clear difference in what's going on. But if we're all yelling at each other and assuming we're all evil and on the wrong side of things, we can't get there. So I am just, doing my best to be a rational individual and to be respectful and polite in listening and allowing people to be who they are and work through it together. And it's amazing on the end of that conversation how we find a lot of things in common, and we create relationships and positive energy to say, okay, well, you're not so bad. Nope, I'm not. Maybe if we actually dealt with each other on an individual basis, we could get back to that, as opposed to the tags of you're this, so therefore I think this of you. It's not right. We need to stop.
I think you hit the nail on the head for me, and a question I was about to ask you, which was, knocking on the doors, you're sure to meet people who you disagree, or they disagree with what you stand for, your policies and whatnot. But that knocking on the door, that acknowledging them as a person, a voter, someone in that district, and showing concern for them, that means the world to some people. They might have the sign of the candidate they love, and it might not be you, but the fact that you showed up, that can make all the difference in just perception alone. And I think that's something we hear from a lot of candidates we've been talking to this election season and in past, where they're just knocking on the doors and talking to people, because that's what you got to do. I think that's one of the most important things in campaigning, that we were talking about it earlier, the fact that there's so much energy on the campaign trail with individuals like yourself and other candidates in Wisconsin, knocking on those doors, having good talks with people. And I think that does make the difference and can change some minds too.
Yeah. I start every conversation at the door. And again, I don't know who it's going to be when I get there. I start every door with, here's who I am. This is what I'm running for. And I'm here to listen. We should be more listening than talking right now. People just need to be need to be heard, because there are pains that are going on. We can't ignore it. But if we can just let it out and then start moving toward it, I don't care whether it's the cost of groceries, if it's childcare, if it's wages, it doesn't matter the conversation. It hurts at home. So we have to be able to get that out so then we can move forward. So listening, getting back to the basics of how do we solve problems, it starts with listening and gathering all of the information. And I think if we as candidates do a better job of that, then people will realize we're not on opposite teams. We are actually on the same team. We are trying to make it better for people who live in our districts.
And I think, Kristen, with the redistricting and with the election of Justice Janet Protasiewicz to the Wisconsin Supreme Court, and she won so overwhelmingly, to me, this was evidence that most Wisconsinites are fed up with the gridlock and nothing getting done. They're just tired of it. And in order to get things done, you have to compromise. And compromising means neither side gets all the goodies that they want.
Absolutely. And I've said that all along. Neither side can always be right, and neither side is always wrong. We have to find a way to get the information out there. In Madison, everybody has been irritated in the last decade. The Republicans are mad because the governor has vetoed everything. The Democrats are mad because they've been locked in a cage and not even allowed to bring any ideas to the table. Everyone is mad. That's what gerrymandering causes. That's what caused it. So the fact that we have maps now, thankfully with Justice Protasewicz, now that we have the maps, now the expectation of working together must take place because accountability matters. If we show up in Madison and don't do anything, they're going to replace us. That's the reality, and that is the expectation. So we're going to have people on both sides that are going to continue to ask for the moon, on the right and on the left. And then there's going to be the batch in the center that says, okay, 10 steps is not going to work, but I think 3.5 to 4 is actually good for people and our fiscal bottom line. Let's work through that together. That is very much who I am, and I know that will be my job coming down there. Connect the dots in what's going to make us feel better and what is actually good for us in the economy and the grand scheme of things in government.
Kristen Alfheim is our guest. If you're just joining us, she is running in the 18th Senate District in Wisconsin, which includes the bulk of Appleton, Menasha, Neenah, and Oshkosh. Kristen, for people who are not familiar with you, tell us just a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so my background, I grew up on a small farm in Wisconsin, which if you know anything about growing up on a farm, it's different. You learn how to, you have the run of 300 acres to get yourself in trouble. Therefore, you need to figure out how to get yourself back out of trouble. It's the basics of problem solving. Give you independence just so you can mess it up and try and figure out your way through it. But you learn how to play, you learn how to be courageous, and you learn how to work. Those are the basics of learning on a farm. Then in my career, I've been dealing with taxes and money and helping advisors learn how to be in the financial services industry. And that at its core is about communication. It's about finding and establishing what the issues are, what it feels like, the facts and the feelings around it, and then trying to find a solution that actually moves forward and fixes it with people from differing backgrounds. That is everything that I am. In that industry, I ended up voluntarily being in advocacy in Madison and Washington, D.C. for well over a decade. Some of the issues were Republican-ish, taxes, retirement type stuff. Some of it was curing Alzheimer's, which tends to be a very blue issue. And I found that none of them are blue or red. They're purple. Don't we all want a rational tax code? Don't we all want the opportunity of financial success in retirement? And don't we all want to cure Alzheimer's? So I found success in working with each group with their alternate side to communicate better, to help both sides realize that working together would make it better for people. And that has been my strength. I ended up, after COVID kind of shut down our advocacy efforts, I ended up working, joining the city council here in Appleton. And it's amazing. As much as people think they understand about how government works, they're wrong.
They don't get it. Yeah.
Absolutely not. I can tell you I'm a fairly smart person that was paying attention. I knew nothing. Those 3 years on city council, working with economic development, working with safety and licensing, working with all of the aspects of how government works to help our communities be stronger versions of themselves. That is a tremendous amount of knowledge that helps give me more of the building blocks necessary as we move forward into larger and larger conversations about how do we help people staying within the realm of what we have in terms of resources. Those are not easy solutions, but we must work together through them to be conscious of our expenses and be sure that we are creating the best environment we can to live, to play, to work, to build a business. All of those things have to take place. And it is like balancing needles on their end to make it work. That is experience that is necessary as we move to the next level and start talking about things on the state level and beyond.
Well, and I think it's that kind of experience that you had, Kristen, on a local level is so critical, as you said, just to understand the inner workings of how these things go. And that continues with my bafflement why someone like Eric Hovde can come in who has no experience in government. Okay, he's had a successful business. Good for you. That's not government. And to come and say, well, I'm qualified to be a U.S. senator, not even a state senator, because I'm rich.
Yep.
That's my qualification. I don't think so.
The easiest part of politics is pointing out what hurts.
Yeah.
That's the easiest thing to do is saying, hey, it's more expensive. Yes, it is. Now what? And there's a lot of candidates that have nothing after that. All they know how to do is to poke the wound as opposed to getting at what's causing it and how to solve it from happening again.
We're going to continue our conversation with Kristen Alfheim. She is running in the 18th U.S. Senate District. Stay with us. You are listening to Matenaer On Air, coming to you across the vast Civic Media radio network. Good morning and welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, Dr. Slide on the board, coming to you from our studio in downtown Waukesha. You can join us, you can call, you can text 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and the platform that Elon continues to actively ruin. Very excited to have our next guest with us. Kristen Alfheim is running in Wisconsin's 18th Senate District. And I was looking a little bit at your opponent, Kristen, who is Republican Anthony Phillips. And according to what I have, he supports abortion bans. He supports Scott Walker's Act 10, and he is vowed to keep the 18th district in the hands of a conservative. One of the things that makes me especially crazy is all of the blatant falsehoods that some of our politicians repeat ad nauseum. And the one that is the current thing making me crazy is abortion up until the 9th month and after birth. And when you're knocking on doors, are you hearing a lot of that garbage being repeated back to you?
No. I would say, I mean, and I do 200 plus doors a week, plus meetings with people, plus, I mean, it's never ending. And I will say that I have not been in a conversation like that in weeks.
Good.
I do not hear that often at the doors where I'm at right now. I do have conversations. I do have people that feel strongly about it. I do have people that will acknowledge they don't like it, but they also understand that someone should not be in a position of having to carry a pregnancy beyond. So I am hearing, if more so than that, I'm hearing more people that are actually, at a base pro-life, but there's acceptance of the fact that it isn't there are gray areas in the conversation. So no, I'm not hearing a lot. The only place I hear stuff like that is on Facebook, where you have, again, candidates or ex-candidates or just people out there throwing nonsense. And it just drives me crazy. And it's on the radio too. I mean, it is unbelievable that you can get away with saying anything you want to. Yep. That's so far from the truth, and then blast that. I was listening to, I do listen to both sides on things. I think it's important to know what's being said and different opinions. And I was coming back from Oshkosh door knocking the other day, and there was a strongly right-sided conversation out of another Oshkosh station. And a woman had sent a letter in saying, what's this Project 2025 that the libs are talking about? And the host explained that all it was a list of potential candidates that Trump could use to appoint in his cabinet because he struggled in the past. And he repeated that statement 3 times.
So he lied 3 times.
That is such a blatant lie. And that was broadcast on one of the largest news stations in Oshkosh. And I'm sure it was a national broadcast. There should be laws. There should be laws. There used to be laws.
Yes.
The bottom line is they are going into the mindset if you repeat a lie enough times, it'll come back and become reality. That needs to stop. It just needs to stop. We have to hope and pray that rational people start to come back to the reality of common sense, put all the information together and make a good decision. And we can't make that happen for everyone, but we have to hope. And I do believe that there is a section of the people that acknowledges that they went down the wrong path. They picked the wrong pony, and they are now starting to back out. It is always difficult to acknowledge we've made a mistake. Sometimes it's easier to stay on the wrong path than to acknowledge we may have picked the wrong one. And I think there's a lot of people that, again, they're coming to their senses and they're saying, enough, come on, enough. Let's move forward.
And we talked about this a little bit yesterday, Kristen, and we did get your text and referred to Project 2025, and we've done a number of shows about Project 2025 and the far-reaching, far more than just staffing a second Trump administration. This is literally reworking democracy to the point where it will be unrecognizable.
It won't be democracy anymore.
No, it won't. And in my opinion, Project 2025 is the blueprint for any next Republican administration. It doesn't matter if it's Trump. No. It doesn't.
You know, it's crazy to me. Again, you'll flip through Twitter or whatever you want to call it, and there are all these comments about anybody that comes from the far right and is saying that the Democrats are trying to ruin things. How are we ruining them? Because we want children to be educated, because we want to feed children, because we think housing should be affordable, because we think every individual should have a vote. How is that a negative? I just don't understand the complete differences in who we are as people and organizations. There is a philosophical challenge that is going on right now in our society. Philosophical. And we have to truly understand where we are in history. And in my opinion, and these maps come back to the circle. In Wisconsin, in my opinion, we must act more globally. Yes. As an organization. We have worked so hard to finally get maps that represent who we are as a state. That is not the end of the mission. Now we have to help each other. If there are 5 Senate seats this year up that can be flipped for the first time in over a decade, it does not matter where you live. You should find them wherever you live, because wherever the districts can be flipped, it affects where you live in your kitchen table and the policies that are going to go into play over the next 4 years. So adopt a district. If you're in a solid blue district, go find one that now is purple and has the opportunity to be blue. Adopt that district as your own and help it become blue so we can get back to taking care of the people in the state. We must look beyond our own back doors right now and take action to solve the problem in Wisconsin, which has been lack of representation of all people. There are major issues on our ballot: women, children, healthcare, you name it. We have got to work together across the state as the Democratic Rational Party to help all of these seats get turned so that we are once again a proper functioning representative government in Madison, doing what's best for the people in the state.
And as you said yourself, Kristen, and if I get elected and I don't do my job, they can vote me out. That's how it's supposed to work. You're not supposed to be so protected in that seat that no matter what you set on fire, we cannot replace you. So, yeah.
Action is expected. Action is expected. You can't just talk talking points. You must have action to back it up. We as a state need to realize the strategy. And I think the Republicans are usually known for their strategy. It is our turn. The Democrats must work together across the state. We finally have the maps. Now let's fill the seats and get back to government works in the middle. It always has. One side gets too carried away, the other side votes them out and moves it back. The pendulums are what kill us. This is where action happens. So let's ensure that we have the action that we need by getting all of these Democrats across the state in the Assembly and the Senate in Madison so we can start fixing these issues and moving forward.
Kristen, what's your website?
It is alfheimforwisconsin.org. And yes, you have to spell that out. I apologize.
That's all right. We will put that in our show notes. Kristen Alfheim running for the Senate District in the 18th Senate District. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. Have fun out on the road. Have fun knocking on those doors. And we will talk to you soon. Stay with us. News is coming up next when we return. This really creeped me out. That's all on the way. Stay close on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Guys.
Chance like us, baby, we were born to
Good morning and welcome back to Matenaer On Air. Jane Matenaer, Greg Bach, and Sweet Cal B on the board, coming to you live from our studio in downtown Waukesha. You can always join us, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment if you're watching in the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and or Twitter. A couple of texts that we just didn't have a chance to get around to, referring to some things we were talking a little bit about earlier. Childcare in particular. JD Vance just thinks that grandpa and grandma and aunts and pretty much just women should be willing to watch your kids.
I like this JD Vance the more I hear from him.
Do you like him?
Yeah.
I pointed out that my daycare center would involve duct tape on a wall. And I did have someone who responded. Joshua from Wausau said, "Hey, Jane, my mom was the same, duct tape in a tree." Threatened us with that all the time. Thank you for that, Joshua. I love your mother.
Also, just really quick, Sherry and Horicon. Hi.
Hi. Mike in Green Bay listening on WGBW. Jane, Greg, and Board Lord, JD Vance's daycare solution is laughable. When my kids were little, their aunties, my sisters, were a few years older than me, working full time in their early 30s. While they're missing their calling, I'm sorry about your sisters. They will live an unfulfilled life. Unless they,
This is why America
kids.
crumbles, Jane.
Yes.
Women just not doing their God-given duty of taking care of kids, whether it's theirs or someone else's. It's shameful. It's
sad.
It's upsetting.
It's just sad.
Where are we going?
And then we were talking about Republican sheriff reaching out to some clerks in Wisconsin, telling them not to use drop boxes because you don't want to give the perception of fraud, even though there is no evidence that happens. Scott from Shorewood says, "I perceive that sheriff to be a doofus." He feels it in his bones, Greg.
He
knows this inherently.
Exactly.
He just knows it inherently.
Inherently,
I feel it.
He's a doofus.
I feel it.
He's a doofus.
Thank you for reaching out, and again for all your texts and calls and everything. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I wanted to share this quickly. I cannot be the only person that this has happened to, and it creeped me out, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So
should.
last night, after Paul and I had dinner, and I'm looking around on the web, and we got a recall for our little Fiat 500, which my husband calls the bubble.
Yeah, it's adorable.
So we get the recall for the bubble, and I make the appointment for the bubble to bring it in, and that's all good. And so I go to the Fiat website. The bubble is it's for 2012. It's got like 105,000 miles on it. It's got lots of miles.
That's it? That's adorable.
You think?
Mine's a 2010. I have 240,000.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
We got a ways to go.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
I drive a 2009 that is over 270,000.
Well, you put me to shame.
Get on it, Jane.
Well, now obviously we're going to keep the bubble.
You got to go drive around with your car to people's houses,
To
knock
catch
on the
up.
doors to get kids to take care of them because that's your job.
That's my role in life. So anyway, I started looking at Fiats. Just for fun.
Kicks.
Just for kicks and grins. It's like, build your own. Okay. I'm going to get the top of the line everything.
Mine's going to have man arms.
And yes, and it can shoot things and whatever. So I put together my perfect little Fiat, and then I go away and forget about it. 20 minutes later, my cell phone rings, and it's a 262 number, and I had been waiting for a call from someone in Brookfield, so I answered it. "Hi, this is Alex." "Hello?"
Hey, Alex.
How are you? Good. How are you? Good. "I just saw you were looking at some Fiats on our website, and I was wondering if I could answer any questions for you." And I said, "Alex, I'm just looking kind of for grins, giggles, like I have lots of money, and I'm not really interested right now, but thank you so much. Have a lovely day." That creeped me out.
You're going to get another call.
How did he know I was on his website looking at cars?
Do you really want me to tell you?
No.
Okay.
It was creepy.
Will you take your car to that dealership?
Might have been a different dealership.
Well,
but they had my phone number. It had to be.
It has your phone number, so it sends a thing saying "ding" Jane Matenaer?
Jane was looking at Fiats.
Give her a call. That doesn't sound weird at all.
Has this happened to anybody else? It has to have happened to other people.
I can't, Calvin, I don't know about you, but I can't think of a time when that specific example. I do know that I am not a fan of when I go looking, because I go on the Amazons and there's a guitar repair website called StewMac that I go on, and I'll be reading up on a piece of equipment or, a product. And then you'll get an email like a day or two later saying, hey, we noticed you checking this thing out. Want to take another look? I'm like, stop following me, Amazon.
Right.
That's weird. If I want it, I'll come back to it. But I know the point is, I know they're going to eventually poke me into buying it, but it is just odd when I don't like that.
Well, I don't like that either. And I'm sorry, Alex, but if I were actually looking for a new car, now I'm not going to buy it from you.
Yeah. And that's the thing too.
Because you creep me out.
Yeah. If it's one thing to get the email, but if you called me instead, they'd be like, don't ever call me again. That's just not, I don't like that at all.
I was just having some fun. Can I not just go and pretend I have more money than I do?
That's when you go into go on Lexus or Bugatti.
Well, I might just go to the Bentley website.
Exactly.
Now and see if I can get someone with a very snooty English accent to call me.
Hello, Jane, this is Smedley for Bentley. I notice you're looking at a car right now.
Put together my dream Bentley and see. Calvin, has this happened to you?
Well, not exactly, but sort of. When I was in college, I had I never followed through with it, but I had a passing interest in joining a Brazilian jiu-jitsu gym.
Okay.
Oh.
So me and my roommate were talking about it one day, and then the next night, it was in my Facebook feed as a suggested ad.
Oh.
And the more innocent explanation is I probably did Google it at some point, so that's where they got the information, but it really felt like my phone was listening to me.
Yeah.
That happens when I was looking up smartwatches. I have a Garmin smartwatch. I did a lot of research. I looked and went back and forth for probably 6 months on which one I want to get, like size, memory, activities, blah blah blah. And I think the one time I looked it up after that for the next 2 months, every ad on Instagram, every ad on Facebook, every ad on Twitter were smartwatches.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And I've mentioned things. I've told this story before. We were on air one time and we were mentioning Earl's show. And we were talking about how much we loved an interview or something. I got to my other job and I pulled up my phone and I got on Audible to look at selections. And the first book it suggested was the book Earl, the DMX autobiography.
Wow.
Yeah. That happens all the time. The call after doing your situation, I don't know if I've ever heard anyone doing that, but I mention it. Sometimes I think it, and boom, there
it pops up.
Yes. I don't like it.
Now, I would like there to be a change in these algorithms somehow.
Never happened, Jane.
Especially with, like you said, about the guitar that you were looking at.
Yeah.
And I've told this story before, maybe not on this show, but we lost my brother last year.
Yes.
And when we were making plans, when he was still with us, and he was very specific, and we're a funeral family, so this may not be your sense of humor, but he was very specific in that he wanted the cheapest urn possible. He did not want us to splash out a lot of money for an urn. He wanted to be cremated. It's like, fine, I'll shop. I'll comparison shop. So I did after he was gone, and I'm online and I find the website, and there's more websites for urns than you can possibly imagine. So I found a nice, reasonably priced, and you can get urns that are like $2,500.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's insane, the vast selection that's available. But I ordered the urn. I am still getting ads for Urn World. Okay, it's not called Urn World, but it might as well be Urn World.
Well, you got a lot
I'm
of brothers.
still getting ads
You got
for
a lot of
urns.
siblings. So you said your brother was very, very adamant about a cheap urn.
Yes.
He's very serious.
Yes.
He wanted that. Would you say he said it in earnest?
Oh. Ow. I could think of was, how many of these do you think I need? I mean, I do have other siblings. Should I just buy a whole bunch of urns in bulk?
Yeah, maybe get a discount.
Should he be switched out every day, like a Monday urn, like underwear? Monday urn, Tuesday urn, Wednesday urn, Thursday urn.
Let's look at the situation here. I mean, you got the car situation where they go, how would you feel if Urn World's like, hey, I saw you looking. This is Vito. This is Vito. I see you looking at Urn World. Who do you want whacked? We got big ones. We got little ones.
We got specials.
Is he a tubby fella?
I wish that would go. They could go away now for a while. Urn World.
I think you can go and, I mean, just start talking to your phone, being like, free money, free money,
free Bentleys,
free Bentleys,
free Jaguars.
Yeah.
I'll try throwing that out there. See if that does anything. Has anything creeped you out? You're just checking something out on the web. You're considering buying it. Wouldn't this be fun? Just for a lark, I'm going to build a car and I'm going to make my dream car, even though I don't have the money for the dream car. And then 20 minutes later, someone from the dealership calls you, because that's what happened to me last night. Creep me out.
Liz from Saukville, listening on WAUK, said, my husband visited a window replacement website, just browsed. Within the hour, 3 different window places called him on his cell phone. Then there are the 2 to 3 hour sales pitches.
Oh no.
Yeah. I mean, to me, that is overstepping. Like, that's overstepping a line.
Big time.
And granted, I mean, I don't answer my phone unless you're in my contacts.
Right.
I have a screen. Google Pixel is a great thing where you can screen calls. If you really want to talk to me, you leave a short message. I listen to it and I choose.
Call you back. Yeah,
exactly. But that, oh my gosh, I don't even know what like, if someone, yeah, if that had been me with the car and they said, hey, I saw you were looking at me, like, please don't ever call me again. This is not the way to get me to buy. This is,
you just convinced me not to buy it from you.
You are furthering the stereotype and narrative of the pushy salesman.
Yes.
And I don't like it. So
Andrew from Maine also texting in, I've been Googling and talking solely about lottery numbers for 3 years.
Me too.
Good luck. Keep it up, Andrew. One of these days it'll hit, I'm sure.
Share the wealth with us.
Absolutely. All right. When we return, we lost James Earl Jones yesterday.
Yeah.
At the age of 93. Long, wonderful life. And we're going to remember James Earl Jones when we return. Don't forget, debate tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris, former President Donald Trump taking to the debate stage. That starts at 8 p.m. Supposed to go 90 minutes, I saw.
Oh, man, I'm going to have to watch clips tomorrow.
90 minutes. I know it's gonna get a little late. Our coverage here on Civic Media will start at 7:30 all across the Civic Media radio network, also on the Civic Media app. 7:30 start with news director Terry Bell and our friend and colleague Todd Alba will be doing all the coverage. So if you don't want to watch it on the tube, you can listen on the radio and you can listen on the app. Stay with us. You're listening to Matenaer On Air, coming to you across the Civic Media radio network.
Look, Simba, everything the light touches is our kingdom.
Wow.
A king's time as ruler rises and falls like the sun. One day, Simba, the sun will set on my time here and will rise with you as the new king.
And this'll all be mine?
Everything.
Everything the light touches. What about that shadowy place?
That's beyond our borders. You must never go there, Simba.
But I thought a king can do whatever he wants.
Oh, there's more to being king than getting your way all the time.
There's more?
Simba. Everything you see exists together in a delicate balance. As king, you need to understand that balance and respect all the creatures, from the crawling ant to the leaping antelope.
But Dad, don't we eat the antelope?
Yes, Simba, but let me explain. When we die, our bodies become the grass, and the antelope eat the grass. And so, we are all connected in the great circle of life.
The iconic voice of James Earl Jones, that's from The Lion King. James Earl Jones gone yesterday at the age of 93. If you have a particular movie or memory of James Earl Jones that you would like to share with us, 855-752-4842. Leave a comment on the live stream on Facebook, YouTube, and what used to be Twitter. James Earl Jones, born in Arcaboutla, Mississippi in 1931. I did not know this. He had a stutter since childhood, and he said that poetry and acting helped him overcome his stutter.
I remember hearing that when I was younger, and I love that because he, you listen to that voice, and it would have been so easy for for someone to snuff out that light by saying, well, you can't talk like that.
Picking picking on him to the point where he just gave up.
But he didn't, and he was he was a powerhouse.
Oh,
and
yes.
Just his size, his voice. It didn't matter what he played. It didn't matter what he said. You took it with a real sense of like, oh, that was James Earl Jones.
There's some weight behind it. There's
Calvin, you played the first clip. It's just very simple, very easy. You're like, okay.
3 words.
This is CNN.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Here we go.
What happened was that...
And you knew who it was.
Exactly.
You knew instantaneously who it was. James Earl Jones was a pre-med major in college. He was in the U.S. Army during the Korean War before going into acting, all kinds of roles on Broadway, which I did not realize. Tons of roles on Broadway for decades.
Yes.
And then the movies came along. He was in Dr. Strangelove.
That was his first film.
Yes.
It is an amazing little role.
Darth Vader, of course, which really put him on the map for the general public.
Yeah, that's who everyone's talking about right now.
Conan the Barbarian, Coming to America, Field of Dreams. Really important character in the Field of Dreams.
The Sandlot. And I'd say important character in The Sandlot too, because it's the notion of judging someone before you ever get to know them, and this idea of the
preconceived
notion. And we talk about Star Wars, Calvin. We have to play this clip. We are legally obligated to play this clip.
No, I am your father.
Goosebumps.
Matt from Middleton texting in, Jones was fantastic in Conan. That gaze of his, magnetic.
Yes, he had a look. He had this seriousness. But on top of that, though, he had so many wonderful credits. But the thing that I really enjoyed about him, I think the most, excuse me, I'm not crying, by the way. I'm just have something in my throat, and you can think I'm lying. But he's one of those stars who I respect so much for the fact that he has this stature, this almost brand about him that he doesn't take seriously.
Yeah.
He could be like James Earl Jones. Don't look at me in my eyes.
Do you know who I am?
Do you have any idea? I'm Darth Vader. Don't look in my eyes. And instead he just had this sense of play and fun and wonder, and people loved him. I saw someone post, he said, like, my husband's first movie was a James Earl Jones film. He treated everyone the same with respect, caring, loving kindness
on the set.
And that's not something you get every single time, especially from someone of his acclaim
and gravitas.
Yes.
And he was on some television comedies you would not necessarily have expected him to do.
He was on Will and Grace.
Yes.
He played James Earl Jones, who lost all confidence in his acting, so he took acting lessons from Jack McFarlane.
The clip is priceless.
But then he was also on The Big Bang Theory, where he's at a restaurant and Sheldon shows up, and we have the clip right here. And this just shows the fact he's on the show, I think, reflects exactly how he feels up the line he just said. Calvin, can you play it?
Let me guess. You like Star Wars. You know, I've been in other movies. But you don't care about those, do you? I have one thing to say to people like you. I like Star Wars too.
James Earl Jones, gone yesterday at the age of 93. We have time for one more clip. This is from the David Letterman show, and he used to do the top 10 list, top 10 countdown. And they did the top 10 things that sound even cooler when James Earl Jones says them. We have the last two. Play those, please, Calvin.
The number 2 cool thing when spoken by James Earl Jones.
Meow, 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 meow.
And the number 1 thing that sounds cool when spoken by James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones on the David Letterman show, gone yesterday at the age of 93. Thank you for all the wonderful memories. Thank you for your dulcet tones.
Gonna watch Empire Strikes Back this weekend.
Absolutely. All right, stay with us. We have news coming up very, very shortly. That is followed by Todd Alba from noon to 2 p.m. Maggie Dawn from 2 to 4 p.m. along with Fancy Brian Kelly and the Dom Salvia show across the Civic Media Radio Network on our news talk stations from 4 to 6 p.m. Thank you, Greg and Calvin and all of our engineers. Without you, nothing works. Thank you most of all for calling and for texting and for listening. It means the world. I hope you find some joy today and you have the chance to share it. We'll see you tomorrow. This is the Civic Media Radio Network.